Have you ever wondered whether you are merely existing or truly living? You wake up every morning, pick up your phone, scroll through a few notifications, go to work, reply to messages, smile at people, then end the day with a kind of exhaustion you can't even explain yourself. On the outside, your life seems normal, but deep inside, something is slowly disappearing. Maybe it's your sense of peace. Maybe it's your motivation. Maybe it's the feeling that you're still connected to your own life. The scariest thing about this era is not war, not poverty. It's the fact that so many people are quietly losing themselves in a world that is far too noisy. We are more connected than ever before, yet lonelier than ever before. We can talk to hundreds of people every day, yet we can't sit alone for 10 minutes without feeling uneasy. We are constantly surrounded by noise. Short videos, social media, news, pressure, comparison, expectations. And then one day you look back at yourself and no longer know, what am I really living for? I've met people with stable careers, yet their spirits were completely drained. I've met people who always smiled on social media, yet every night they felt an unbearable emptiness. I've met people who spent their entire youth chasing success, only to realize they had lost their family, their health, and themselves along the way. The problem is, most people don't realize this immediately. Disconnection doesn't happen in a single day. It arrives very quietly, through the moments you choose distraction instead of facing yourself, through the nights spent mindlessly scrolling, through the moments you live for other people's approval, instead of truly understanding who you are. In today's video, I want to share with you 9 signs that modern life is quietly destroying people from the inside out, and more importantly, how you can find yourself again before it's too late. Because sometimes, the most dangerous thing is not failure. It's living too long in a life that slowly kills your soul without you even realizing it. And stay with me until the end of the video, because the final sign may be something that is quietly happening in your own life right now. The first sign, we are living too fast to understand ourselves. I want you to think about the last time you truly sat still without holding your phone, without playing music, without watching videos, without doing anything at all, just sitting with yourself. Do you even remember what that felt like? For many people today, silence has become something uncomfortable. They need noise. They need bright screens. They need something constantly running in front of them. Because the moment everything becomes quiet, they begin hearing the things inside themselves they've been trying to ignore for far too long. Some people are afraid of emptiness. Some are afraid of falling behind. Some are afraid to face the truth that they've spent years living without ever truly understanding what they want. That is the greatest tragedy of modern life. We are living too fast to understand ourselves. Every day feels like the same loop. Wake up, check your phone, go to work, reply to messages, scroll social media, feel exhausted, then sleep. And the next day, everything starts all over again. Many people call that adult life. But no, that is merely existing on autopilot. I once met a man in the early 2000s. He was a manager at a large company, good income, beautiful house, nice car. Everyone thought he was successful. But one evening, while we were talking together, he said something I've never forgotten. "Jim, I'm so busy that I can't even remember what I used to enjoy anymore." Think about that. A person can spend an entire lifetime building a career, yet lose themselves along the way. That's exactly what's happening to millions of people today. They are not truly living. They are simply reacting constantly to life. Notifications decide their mood. Emails decide their energy. Social media decides their self-worth. Work decides their value. And over time, they no longer know who they are without all those things. You see, one of the most important skills in life is the ability to stop and observe yourself. But modern society has made that almost disappear. Everything is designed to keep you busy, keep you distracted, keep your mind constantly pulled outward. Because a person who is always busy usually won't have time to ask, am I truly happy? And sometimes that is the most dangerous thing of all. Not that you failed, not that you're poor, not that you're not talented enough, but that you've lived in autopilot mode for so long that you've forgotten what it feels like to truly be alive. I remember once seeing a young man sitting in a coffee shop. In front of him was a laptop, music playing through his headphones, his phone screen constantly lighting up, replying to multiple messages at once. On the outside, he looked productive, but his eyes were empty. That's something I see more and more in the modern generation. So many people are mentally exhausted, but they don't realize it because they've never stopped long enough to listen to themselves. Do you know what the scariest part is? When someone lives too fast for too long, they begin losing the ability to truly feel life. They eat without really tasting. They talk without truly being present. They live beside the people they love, yet their mind is always somewhere else. Life slowly becomes a chain of unconscious reactions. And then years pass, and they begin asking themselves, why do I still feel like something is missing? The answer is very simple. Because you cannot find peace when you've never truly reconnected with yourself. That's why I've always believed that. Sometimes in life, what you need most is not to run faster. It's to stop. Stop long enough to listen to your thoughts. Stop long enough to look back at your direction. Stop long enough to ask yourself, is this life truly heading where I want it to go? Because if you do not live intentionally, the world will live for you. And that's when many people begin losing themselves without even realizing it. But it doesn't stop there. Because after people lose connection with themselves, the next thing they begin chasing is validation from others. And that is exactly the trap social media creates every single day. The second sign, social media is making you live a fake life. I want you to observe this very carefully. So many people today no longer live to experience life. They live to be seen. They travel, but the first thing they think about is what to post online. They eat a beautiful meal, but don't truly enjoy it because they're too busy taking pictures. They smile in front of the camera, then immediately return to the same familiar exhaustion and emptiness afterward. That is what social media is quietly doing to people. It turns life into a stage. And even more dangerously, it causes many people to believe that their worth is measured by likes, views, and validation from others. I once said, don't let other people's opinions become the prison of your life. But today, many people are living inside that prison every single day without realizing it. They open their phones in the morning and instantly begin comparing their lives to others. That person is more successful. That person is more attractive. That person is richer. That person is happier. At least that's what social media makes them believe. But you must remember one thing. Social media rarely shows you the truth. It only shows you the curated version. No one posts the nights they cry under pressure. No one posts the loneliness they feel inside their own home. No one posts the moments they doubt themselves. No one posts their mental exhaustion. People post highlights while quietly hiding the darkness behind them. And if you stare too long at other people's edited lives, you will begin to hate your real one. That is the trap. A very subtle trap, because human beings naturally compare themselves. But in the past, you only compared yourself to a few people around you. Today, you are comparing yourself to millions of people every single day. A young woman sees someone succeeding at 22 and begins feeling like a failure. A young man sees young entrepreneurs showing off luxury cars and feels left behind. A mother sees someone else's perfect life and begins thinking she's not good enough. Gradually, social media is no longer a tool for connection. It becomes a distorted mirror that destroys people's self-worth. I once met a man around 2007. He had a good job, a stable family, a decent life, but he constantly felt like he was not enough. After many conversations, he finally admitted, Jim, I'm always looking at other people's lives and feeling like I'm losing. That's what happens when you spend too much time looking outward and forget to look inward. You begin building your self-worth based on the approval of the crowd. And that is an incredibly dangerous foundation. Because if your self-esteem depends on praise, then it will also collapse because of criticism. You will live in anxiety. You will fear being left behind. You will fear not being outstanding enough. You will fear being forgotten. And eventually life becomes an endless race to prove your worth to other people. But think carefully about this. What would happen if one day no one looked at you anymore? No more likes, no more attention, no more validation. Would you still feel valuable? That is a question many people are afraid to face. Because deep inside, they lost the ability to validate themselves a long time ago. I believe one of the greatest forms of freedom is this: not needing to constantly prove yourself to the world. You do not need to turn your life into a performance. You do not need to make everyone admire you every day. You simply need to live authentically. But in this era, living authentically has become difficult because algorithms reward attention, not peace. People begin editing their lives to fit other people's expectations. They say what gets likes. They follow trends. They chase validation. And after many years, they no longer know who they truly are anymore. That's why so many people today have thousands of followers, yet still feel lonely. They are seen, but not truly understood. They can make the whole world think they're happy, while deep down they know, inside, they are slowly burning out. You see, the greatest danger of social media is not the technology itself. It's the fact that it makes people forget the true value of life. Life is not something to display. It is something to feel. And the moment you begin living only for validation is the moment you begin drifting away from yourself. But it still doesn't stop there. Because after people are pulled into endless comparison and validation, they gradually lose the ability to focus. Their minds become addicted to distraction, and that is where the real crisis begins. Sign 3. We are addicted to distraction. I want you to try something very simple. Sit still for 10 minutes. No phone, no music, no videos. Do absolutely nothing. Just sit still. For many people, that has become incredibly difficult. Not because they're busy, but because their minds have become accustomed to constant stimulation. This is one of the greatest crises of the modern age, yet very few people truly recognize it. Human beings are gradually losing the ability to focus, losing the ability to be present, losing the ability to slow down, and instead, they are becoming addicted to distraction. They wake up, and the first thing they do is open their phone, not because something important happened, but because the brain has become used to seeking instant stimulation, a notification, a short video, a message, a like. Those tiny things create dopamine, the chemical that makes you feel rewarded. The problem is, when you constantly live on short-term dopamine, your brain begins losing interest in things that require depth. A book feels too slow. A deep conversation feels too long. A long-term goal feels too difficult to stay patient with. People begin wanting everything. Faster, shorter, easier, more stimulating. And little by little, focus, the very thing that once created great people, begins to disappear. I once met a businessman in the early 2000s. He told me, "Jim, I feel busy all the time, but I'm not accomplishing anything truly important. Does that sound familiar to you?" So many people today spend their entire day reacting to the world, but never spend time building themselves. Their attention constantly jumps from one thing to another: a video, a message, an email, a notification, an online argument, a new piece of content. Their minds never truly rest. And the dangerous part is this: when your mind is constantly being pulled away, you slowly lose the ability to think deeply. You no longer sit with an idea long enough, no longer stay patient with a process, no longer tolerate boredom. But do you know something? Every great achievement in life requires long-term focus. A healthy body requires daily discipline. A great career requires years of building. A strong soul requires time for reflection. A meaningful life requires genuine presence. None of those things are created through constant distraction. I believe this. One of the most valuable things you can possess today is the ability to focus in a chaotic world. Because wherever your attention goes, your life will follow. If your attention is consumed all day by meaningless things, don't be surprised when your life also begins to feel meaningless. I remember once seeing a group of young people sitting together in a restaurant. The strange thing was, no one was truly talking. Each person stared down at their own screen, scrolling, tapping, swiping, smiling slightly, then continuing to scroll. They were sitting beside each other, but their minds were somewhere else. That is the image of this era. We are physically present, but mentally absent. And over time, the brain becomes accustomed to that constant state of stimulation. Silence becomes uncomfortable. Slowness becomes boring. Focus becomes exhausting. People begin losing the ability to enjoy simple things. A peaceful morning, a sincere conversation, a meal without phones, an afternoon without notifications. Everything starts feeling not stimulating enough. You see, this is no longer just a technology problem. This is a battle for human attention. And if you cannot control your attention, something else will always control your life. The algorithm understands that. It knows what makes you stop. It knows what keeps you scrolling. It knows what makes you addicted. And minute by minute, your focus is being eroded. But the saddest part is this: many people do not realize they are losing their lives this way. They think they are just relaxing for a bit, until years pass and they are still standing still, not growing, not changing, unable to understand why they always feel tired and unmotivated. Sometimes the answer is very simple: because a mind that is constantly scattered will struggle to create a life with direction. I have always believed this. If you want to change your life, you must first reclaim control of your mind. Learn how to sit still. Learn how to focus. Learn how to be alone without constantly needing stimulation. Because the person who cannot sit peacefully with themselves is often the person most easily controlled by the world. And over time, That constant distraction doesn't just destroy people's focus, it also exhausts them from the inside, even while they continue pretending on the outside that they are fine. Sign 4. Many people are burned out but still pretending they're fine. There is something I realized after many years of observing people. Most people do not collapse all at once. They collapse slowly, quietly, silently, piece by piece. At first it's just exhaustion, then loss of motivation, then emotional numbness, then loss of hope, and eventually they live like a shadow of themselves. The sad thing is, so many people today are mentally exhausted, yet still pretend they're okay. They still go to work, still reply to messages, still smile, still post on social media, still show up as if everything is normal. But inside, they almost have no energy left to continue. You can see it everywhere. Someone waking up every morning with a heavy feeling, yet still telling themselves, just keep going a little longer. An office worker staring at a screen 10 hours a day, yet no longer feeling that their work has meaning. A young person constantly pushing themselves to succeed faster, while their spirit slowly burns out. We are living in an era where burnout has been normalized. People call it hard work, ambition, effort. But no, there is a huge difference between working hard and destroying yourself. I once met a businessman many years ago. He was extremely successful, a packed schedule every day, always traveling, always busy, always chasing the next goal. People admired him, until one day he said to me, "Jim, I can't remember the last time I felt peaceful." Think about that. A person can possess many things, yet lose peace within their soul. Is that really success? I think many people today are trapped in a race they've never stopped to ask themselves, what am I running for? They only know they must keep going, keep working, keep trying, keep enduring, keep pretending to be strong, because modern society makes people feel that if you slow down, you will be left behind. And so, people continue pushing themselves beyond their emotional limits. They don't sleep enough. Their minds never rest. Their emotions are never healed. Yet they still try to appear as if everything is fine. That's why more and more people feel unmotivated, disconnected, emotionally numb toward life. Not because they are weak, but because they have carried too much pressure for too long. You see, the human soul is just like the body. If you constantly force it to keep functioning without allowing it to rest, eventually, it will begin to collapse. But the problem is, mental collapse is often invisible. When someone breaks an arm, everyone knows they are injured, but a mentally exhausted person can still smile, still go to work, still say, "I'm fine," while inside they are slowly falling apart. I believe one of the greatest tragedies of this era is this. Many people are only loved when they are useful, so they become afraid to rest, afraid to slow down, afraid to admit they are tired, afraid to admit they are not okay. They think, if I stop, people will be disappointed, and so they continue carrying burdens their soul can no longer handle. Do you know what happens when a person lives too long in a state of stress? They begin losing the ability to feel joy. Everything becomes dull. The things that once made them happy no longer create emotion. They smile less, feel exhausted more, become more irritable, lose hope more easily. And the most dangerous part is this. They begin believing that this is simply how life is supposed to feel. No, life was not meant for human beings to exist in a constant state of exhaustion. You are not created just to work until you lose yourself. You do not need to prove your worth by torturing your mind every single day. I have always believed this. A successful life that loses its peace is ultimately still a failed life. Because the true meaning of success is not merely how much money you make, it is this. Whether you manage to keep your soul intact throughout the journey. And sometimes, the bravest thing is not continuing to push forward. It is daring to admit, I'm tired, daring to rest, daring to slow down, daring to heal. Because if you do not take care of your soul, there will come a day when your outer life continues functioning, but inside, you are completely empty. And when people begin feeling empty like that, they become more likely to look at others, compare their lives to the world around them, and quietly lose their self-worth day after day. Sign 5. Comparison is quietly destroying self-worth. There is a trap that many people fall into every single day without even realizing it. It is constantly viewing their life through the success of others. You open your phone, and within minutes, you see someone buying a house at 25, someone making millions of dollars, someone with the perfect body, someone traveling around the world, someone seemingly living the dream life. And very quietly, a thought begins appearing: I'm falling behind. That is how comparison destroys people. Not loudly, not instantly. It happens slowly until you begin feeling like your life is no longer good enough. I once said, don't wish things were easier. Wish you were better. But today, many people no longer focus on developing themselves. They spend too much time watching other people. And the more they watch, the more insecure they become. A young woman sees someone else succeeding early and begins doubting herself. A young man sees his friends moving further ahead and feels like a failure. Someone who works hard every day, but after only 15 minutes on social media, starts thinking, maybe I'm not good enough. Do you see it? Comparison causes people to forget their own journey. They no longer live at their own pace. They begin living under the invisible pressure of the world. They must be faster, richer, more impressive, successful earlier. And if they don't achieve those things quickly enough, they begin feeling worthless. This is extremely dangerous because every human being has a different journey. Some people succeed at 25. Some discover life's meaning at 50. Some fail for years before maturing. Some need to move slowly to understand themselves. But social media does not show you that. It only shows you the final result. You see someone standing on a stage, but not the lonely years behind it. You see wealth, but not the failures. You see smiles, but not the sleepless nights. And when you constantly compare the behind the scenes of your life to the highlight version of someone else's life, you will always feel like you are losing. I once met a young man around 2005. He told me, Jim, I feel like I'm not moving fast enough. I asked him, who told you that? He stayed silent. And that is exactly the problem. Much of the pressure in life does not come from reality. It comes from constantly looking at others and believing, you must become like them. But life is not a race where everyone must reach the finish line at the same time. You do not need to live according to the world's timeline. You do not need to prove your success by a certain age in order to have value. What matters most is this: are you becoming better than the person you were yesterday? Because true growth does not come from competing with others. It comes from overcoming the old version of yourself. But sadly, many people today no longer look inward. They live in a constant state of watching other people, and that slowly erodes their self-worth. Do you know what happens when someone loses self-worth? They begin living to please others. They fear judgment. They fear failure. They fear not being good enough. Little by little, they lose the confidence to live authentically. I believe this. One of the most dangerous forms of poverty is poverty of self-worth, because when a person no longer believes in themselves, they will constantly need the world to confirm that they matter. And that is a very exhausting way to live. You will always feel lacking, always feel insufficient, always feel like you need something more in order to be accepted. But remember this: a tree does not grow faster simply because it looks at another tree. It grows by continuing to strengthen its own roots. Human beings are the same. You do not need to become someone else in order to have value. You simply need to become a better version of yourself each day. That is the only competition worth participating in. Because in the end, it is not the most impressive person who lives the most peaceful life. It is the person who understands themselves the most. Stop for a moment and ask yourself, how much of the pressure you are carrying today is truly what you want? And how much of it exists only because you are afraid of appearing less than other people? Because sometimes the thing destroying your self-worth is not failure. It is the fact that you spend too much time looking at other people's lives that you forget to live your own. And over time, people begin fearing something very strange: silence. Because when all the noise disappears, they are forced to face themselves. Sign 6. Modern people have lost the ability to be alone. I want you to notice something. So many people today can spend all day around others, yet cannot spend a few minutes alone with themselves. They need music while driving, need videos while eating, need their phone before sleeping, need something constantly running in their mind. Because the moment everything becomes quiet, an uncomfortable feeling begins to appear: emptiness, anxiety, loneliness, the thoughts they have avoided for far too long. That is why many people fear silence. Not because silence is frightening, but because in silence they begin hearing themselves. And sometimes that is what modern people fear most. I once said, you cannot change what you refuse to face. But modern society leaves people with almost no time to face their inner world anymore. Everything moves too fast. The moment they feel sad, they open their phone. The moment they feel lonely, they search for entertainment. The moment they feel empty, they instantly find a way to keep themselves busy. People are using noise to escape themselves. Do you realize that? There are people who cannot eat a meal without watching a video, cannot walk without headphones, cannot lie still without holding their phone. Their minds constantly need to be filled. But the problem is this: if you always run away from silence, you will never understand what is truly happening inside you. I remember once being alone in a hotel room after a speech in the late 90s. No smartphone, no social media, no non-stop notifications like today, only silence. And it was in moments like that that I understood myself the most. I thought about life, about mistakes, about the person I truly wanted to become. You see, growth rarely happens in noise. It happens in moments when you are quiet enough to listen to yourself. But modern people are losing that ability. They can talk to hundreds of people, yet cannot understand their own emotions. They know all the latest news, yet do not know what truly matters in their own life. They are constantly connected to the world, but disconnected from themselves. That is a great tragedy, because if a person does not understand themselves, they will easily live a life defined by others. They will chase what others call success, love the way others expect them to, live according to society's standards, without ever truly asking themselves, is this the life I actually want? I believe this: the strongest person is not the one constantly appearing before crowds. It is the person who can sit alone and still feel peaceful, because when you cannot tolerate silence, it is often a sign that something inside you has not healed yet. Maybe it is pressure, maybe regret, maybe fear, maybe a sense of being lost. And instead of facing it, many people choose to keep themselves constantly busy. But remember this: the things you avoid often end up quietly controlling your life. If you avoid fear, it will control your decisions. If you avoid loneliness, you will become attached to the wrong relationships. If you avoid yourself, you will spend your entire life without knowing who you truly are. That is why I have always believed that sometimes the best thing you can do for your soul is turn off all the noise. Sit still, walk alone, write down your thoughts, observe your life slowly, because only when your mind becomes quiet enough can you hear the true voice inside yourself. And the interesting thing is this: many of the answers you are searching for out there have actually been inside you all along. You simply have never been quiet enough to hear them. I know silence feels uncomfortable at first, because once there is no more distraction, all the buried emotions begin rising to the surface. But that is also where healing begins, because you cannot heal a soul if you have never truly sat down and listened to it. Ask yourself this: when was the last time you were alone and still felt peaceful? If that question made you fall silent for a few seconds, perhaps you already understand the problem. And when people lose the ability to connect with themselves like this, they begin experiencing one of the strangest paradoxes of the modern era. The more connected we become, the lonelier we feel. Sign 7. The more connected we become, the lonelier we feel. There is a very strange paradox in this era. Never before has it been easier for people to connect with one another, yet never before have so many people felt this lonely. You can text someone on the other side of the world in seconds. You can talk to hundreds of people every day. You can have thousands of followers on social media. Yet, at night, so many people still lie there feeling, no one truly understands me. That is the most dangerous kind of loneliness. Loneliness is not when you are alone. Loneliness is when you are surrounded by people, yet cannot truly connect with anyone. I have met people with many friends, yet no one to call when they were truly falling apart. I have met people who always appeared cheerful in crowds, yet every night felt an unbearable emptiness. And I have met people who spent so much time online that they forgot how to truly connect in real life. You see, social media gives us the feeling of being connected, but many connections today remain only on the surface. People react to each other's posts, but do not truly listen to one another. People watch each other's stories every day, yet do not know how much the other person is hurting. People talk constantly, yet rarely open up for real. That is why many people feel they are seen, but not understood. And human beings cannot live healthily for long without genuine connection. Not internet connection, human connection, a sincere conversation, a timely hug, someone who truly listens without judgment, a moment where you can be yourself without trying to impress anyone. That is what truly nourishes the soul. But sadly, many people today are living in relationships full of interaction but empty of presence. They sit beside each other, yet each person stares at a different screen. They eat together, but their minds are somewhere else. They love each other, but no longer truly understand each other. I remember once seeing a family in a restaurant in the early 2000s. The father constantly checking his phone, the mother silent. The young child trying to talk about school, but no one truly listening. That moment made me think deeply, because sometimes what makes people feel the loneliest is not the absence of people around them. It is the feeling of not truly being noticed. I believe this. One of the greatest gifts you can give another person is your genuine presence. No distraction, no rushing, no half listening while looking at your phone. Simply, truly being there. But modern society is making that increasingly rare. People are too busy, too distracted, too exhausted, too absorbed in the digital world, to the point that they are gradually losing the ability to create deep connections. And then what happens? They begin feeling no one understands them. No one truly cares. No one sees who they really are. That loneliness slowly becomes an emptiness inside the soul. And many people try filling that emptiness with entertainment, shopping, social media, work, attention, or temporary relationships. But none of those things truly heal it, because what human beings deeply need is not merely attention. It is genuine connection, to be understood, to be heard, to be accepted. Do you know what the saddest part is? So many people today have thousands of conversations, yet not a single truly honest one. They laugh constantly, yet rarely say what they genuinely feel. They always appear strong, yet inside they are deeply exhausted. And over time, that loneliness begins eating away at their soul from within. I have always believed this. Human beings were not created to live isolated from one another. We need each other, not to impress, not to compete, not to prove our worth, but to remind each other that we are not alone on this journey. That is why you must be careful with the kind of life that slowly disconnects you from real human connection. Because one day, you may wake up in a life full of noise and realize you have never felt lonelier. And from that prolonged loneliness, many people begin losing the most important thing of all, their sense of purpose. Sign 8. Many people are losing their sense of purpose. I believe this. One of the most painful feelings a human being can experience is not failure. It is waking up every day without knowing what you are living for anymore. You continue existing. You still go to work, still eat, still smile and talk, still fulfill your responsibilities every day. But deep inside, everything slowly becomes empty. You no longer feel excited, no longer look forward to the future, no longer clearly feel the meaning of life. So many people today are living this way. They are not truly living, they are simply trying to survive one day at a time. I once met a man in the early 2000s. He had everything society calls success. A career, income, status, a beautiful house. But during a conversation, he looked at me and said, "Jim, I don't know what any of this means anymore." That sentence stayed with me for a very long time, because many people believe that if they achieve more, they will feel happier. But that is not always true. You can possess many things and still feel empty, because purpose does not come from how much you have. It comes from this, feeling that your life is moving towards something meaningful. And that is what many modern people are losing. They are trapped in a cycle of making money, spending money, working, feeling exhausted, then repeating it all again. They are always busy, but not truly moving anywhere. Do you see it? A person can climb very fast and still be climbing the wrong mountain. That is what happens when people live without real purpose. They chase goals society tells them they should have, but once they achieve them, they feel even emptier than before. Because deep inside, the human soul needs more than material things. It needs purpose, connection, growth, contribution, and the feeling that one's life has value. But modern society keeps people running constantly to the point that they no longer have time to ask themselves, who do I truly want to become? I once said, profits are better than wages. But what matters even more than profits is the person you become in the process. That is what truly matters. Not merely how much money you make, but this, what kind of person that life is turning you into. Some people become wealthy but lose their family. Some achieve status but lose their mental health. Some stay constantly busy, yet are completely empty inside. That is not real success. I think many people today are trapped in lives they never consciously chose. They simply move through life on autopilot, studying because everyone studies, working because everyone works, chasing success because society says they should. But very few people truly stop and ask, if there were no pressure from the world, how would I actually want to live? That is a very important question, because if you do not define the meaning of your own life, the world will define it for you. And usually, the world will make you believe that your value lies in productivity, achievement, money, and visibility. But I do not believe that. I believe this. A meaningful life is a life where, when you wake up, you feel that you are truly alive. You still feel gratitude, still feel connected, still feel yourself growing, still feel that your soul has not died. That is what matters. Because many people today do not die physically first. They die spiritually first. They lose curiosity, lose passion, lose emotion, lose hope, and then they spend the rest of their lives living purely out of habit. The sad thing is, many people do not realize it until it is too late, until many years have passed, until they look back on their youth, until they realize they spent too much time merely existing and forgot how to truly live. You know, life does not only need achievement, it needs meaning, because a person with a reason to live will have the strength to overcome many things. But a person who loses meaning will often feel lost, even when everything on the outside seems fine. Stop and ask yourself, what truly makes this life feel worth living to you? Not what makes other people admire you, but what makes your soul feel alive. If you cannot answer immediately, do not be afraid. Many people are struggling with the same question. But the good news is this: you can still find yourself again. You can still start over, still change direction, still save your soul before it is too late. And sometimes that change does not begin by doing more. It begins with something very simple: slowing down. Sign 9, slowing down might save your life. There is something I want you to remember very clearly. Running faster does not always help you reach the right destination. Sometimes what you need most in life is not acceleration. It is stopping long enough to see where you are actually going. I think many people today are not truly exhausted because life is too hard. They are exhausted because they have lived too long without giving their soul any space to breathe. They are constantly in a state of having to respond, having to stay updated, having to keep up, having to stay busy. But human beings were not created to live like machines running non-stop. Your soul needs rest. Your mind needs silence. Your heart needs the feeling of being genuinely connected to life. Otherwise, you may achieve many things externally while remaining completely empty inside. There was a period in my life when everything was moving very fast. Work, schedules, traveling, speaking engagements, endless goals appearing one after another. And then one day, I realized if I kept living that way, I would lose the very thing that made life meaningful. That was the moment I understood this. Slowing down is not weakness. It is wisdom, because when you slow down, you begin noticing the things you once overlooked. You begin realizing you have been living under too much stress. You begin realizing there are relationships where you were never truly present. You begin realizing you spent too much time on urgent things and forgot what was important. That is why I have always believed this. A good life is not a life that is constantly busy. It is a life with balance between ambition and peace, effort and rest, growth and enjoyment. You see, the modern world makes people believe that if they stop, they will fall behind. But sometimes, the person who is truly lost is the one who never stopped to look at the map. Think about that. Some people spend 10 years running, only to realize they never truly lived the life they wanted. Some people make a great deal of money but lose the ability to enjoy life. Some people are always online, yet their souls are completely disconnected. That is not how human beings were meant to live. I believe this. You need moments of stillness in life. A morning without your phone, a walk without headphones, a meal without screens, time set aside simply to think and reflect on yourself. Those things may seem small, but they can save your soul. Because many people do not truly need more dopamine. They need peace. Many people do not truly need more attention. They need genuine connection. Many people do not truly need more achievements. They need to rediscover meaning. And the interesting thing is this: the most important things in life usually only appear when you slow down enough to notice them. A deep conversation, a peaceful moment, an idea that changes your life, a feeling of gratitude, a moment of truly listening to your own heart. Those things do not emerge from noise. They emerge from presence. I know, living slowly in this era is not easy. You will feel pressure to keep up with everyone else, to constantly move forward, to always stay productive. But remember this, if your lifestyle causes you to lose your peace, lose your mental health, lose your ability to feel happiness, then perhaps the price you are paying is too high. In the end, what people remember most about life is not merely how much they accomplished. It is this, how deeply they experienced life, whether they truly lived or not, whether they truly loved or not, whether they were fully present during the moments that mattered most. That is what remains. So today, I want you to ask yourself one very simple question. If you continue living the way you are now, 5 years from today, what will your soul become? And if the answer makes you feel uneasy, perhaps it is already time to change. You do not need to change everything overnight. Just begin with small things. Go to sleep a little earlier. Spend less time on screens. Listen to yourself more. Be more present with the people you love. Live a little slower. Because sometimes, what saves your life is not one massive turning point. It is the moments when you decide, I will not continue losing myself anymore. If this video touched you in some way, write in the comments. I will slow down and find myself again. And if you want to continue your journey of self-development, self-discipline, and building a more meaningful life, subscribe to the channel so you do not miss the next lessons. Because in a world full of noise, being able to stay aware and connected to yourself is already a very rare form of success. And I will see you again in the next video.